Welcome to the Women Inspired podcast, brought to you by Modern Well, a beautiful woman-centered collaborative workspace in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm your host, April Seifert, psychologist, entrepreneur, and self-proclaimed life experience junkie. Each week, I will introduce you to a different woman who is succeeding and inspiring others in one way or another. We'll dive into her story, her successes, failures, and the lessons she has learned along the way, all with the goal of inspiring you to listen to that inner voice who keeps reminding you that there is something you want to take action on. You are so much more capable and powerful than you give yourself credit for. Inside of you is a woman on fire. Let's let her out and see what happens. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Women Inspired Podcast. My name is April Seifert and I am your host. This week we are talking about a really cool topic. Specifically, we're talking about what happens in terms of changes and doors opening in our lives when we fall in love with ourselves and give ourselves permission to live in a 100% authentic way. This includes things that you're afraid of. This includes your shortcomings. This includes your strengths. This includes everything. What does it mean to fall in love with ourselves first? And then how does that end up manifesting in our lives? Now, specifically this week, we are focusing on one really important aspect of our lives, and that is our romantic relationships. So this week, you're going to hear from a woman named Emyrald Sinclaire. She is an acclaimed inspirational speaker, a love and relationship coach, and an author. And I was really excited to have her on, not just because, she talks to people about how to find love and that type of thing, which that's important. Human connection is extremely important, but I love the approach she takes. She takes the approach that when we grow into the best version of ourselves, when we learn to love ourselves first and we project out there our true authentic self, that is when we're going to find somebody who loves us exactly as we are. And that's the type of relationship that is going to last. So I am absolutely thrilled for you all to meet Emyrald Sinclaire. I can't wait for you to hear her interview. Emyrald, I am so excited that you are here for this episode of the Women Inspired Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, April. I'm excited to be here as well.
So I've done a little bit of creeping on you on the internet, as I do with most of the people who I interview. And
that makes sense.
It makes it so easy.
Yes.
I'm really excited to chat with you today. But before we get into all of the awesome stuff that you're doing, I would love for you to help my audience get to know you a little bit and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. I'm a love and relationship coach. I live in Colorado with my partner and two adorable Pomeranians. And ultimately, my mission, my purpose, my joy on this planet is helping women to attract in their love, but via practices of really working on themselves and learning how to love themselves and create their best life ever, so that as a result, they just become naturally magnetic to a perfect partner for them.
That is awesome. And I haven't talked to very many people on, I think there might have been one other person who sort of approximates your content area, maybe, that I've talked to on the podcast. So talk to me about, a little bit more deeply about what a love and relationship coach does and how you got into that field in the first place. Because like I said, I haven't talked to very many people who do it, and it doesn't seem like it's a super common thing out there.
Sure. Okay, so I have to clarify with what I do as a love and relationship coach, because to be fair, there's different styles, right? You think of a business coach. Well, a business coach could focus on marketing. They could focus on sales. They could focus on growing your list. And so for me as a love and relationship coach, my specialty truly is mindset, limiting beliefs, law of attraction, spirituality. Like, I am definitely on the woo-woo end of the spectrum, because that's really in alignment with who I am. Like, I'm a very spiritually aligned woman. I trust my intuition. I pray, I meditate every single day, but I haven't always done this. So to back up as to how I got to what I'm doing, prior to this, I was a nutritionist and I had a food business with a girlfriend. We had a gluten-free vegan cafe. And I wasn't fulfilled. It was her dream, to be honest with you. But I was a nutritionist. I was a raw food chef. I was helping people get over eating issues or emotional eating issues or food allergies. So on one level, it was fulfilling. But in my heart of hearts, I always felt like I could be doing more. Like my purpose was bigger. I'd still wake up with the what am I supposed to be doing with my life type of feeling. And so when we dissolved our partnership, I went back to school for coaching and I got really clear with myself and really realized that I want to go deeper into love. And it was twofold. Part of it was because I was raised by a hypnotherapist. And so I actually grew up understanding how your thoughts affect your reality in a practical way and also in a mental way, in a spiritual way, in a quantum physics way. And so I had a lot of this background on how powerful we are as human beings. And yet my entire life, I could tell you horror story after horror story in my romantic relationships. And so I knew on one hand that I am this amazing, powerful creator, but on the other hand, why the hell was I creating these relationships that were just all wrong for me and they would leave me brokenhearted, or I had this wall around myself that I couldn't break down. And so it prompted my own lifelong search and journey into love, into dating, into communication, into being an awesome woman that could attract in her soulmate. And so when this business dissolved and I went back to school and decided like, I want to be a life coach, I want to help women to do big things with their lives. I didn't know how that was all going to work out. And then I had this aha moment of, holy cow, like all this work I had done on myself had attracted in this amazing man. Like, what if I could teach women how to do the same and help them avoid potentially years or a decade plus of heartbreak as it was in my case? And so that's when the business began of, all right, how do I help women to be in amazing relationships, to skip some of the BS that I had to go through for many, many years? And I essentially crafted a process, and it was a big process of spiritual growth, because when a woman falls in love with herself and she realizes what she wants and she's in alignment with those beliefs and she sets boundaries and she doesn't apologize for who she is, she's not trying to be someone else in order to get the guy, that leading with heart and authenticity is what attracts in your quote unquote soulmate relationship. And so my own journey of knowing I could have what I wanted, but really not, but trying to figure out why I didn't have what I wanted is now something that I am able to teach women that are switched on, that have an idea and a concept of life and creation, and they're not victims and they're not being reactive to what life throws at them, but they understand like, no, I have a role in what is happening. And so these are the type of women that I can help them to understand, all right, there's still a couple of things that are missing. Like you might have a great business life, but your love life sucks. Or you might have all the money you want, but your love life is lacking. And so in many ways, we just need that outsider point of view to help us realize what we're doing wrong or some little tweaks that we have to make. And in the case of what I do, it's really comes down to showing a woman she can have exactly what she wants. And the only thing standing in her way is her belief system that she can't have it.
Something that I think is really cool about the work that you do, and we talked about this a little bit before we hopped on and actually started recording when we were kind of chit-chatting before, but I think it's so cool that you start this process, or such a big foundational part of this process is helping women live in authentic ways. I don't know that people make as big of a connection between that notion and everything else that happens to them, including finding a partner or finding somebody who they may want to spend their life with. But I don't think that people realize how deeply connected those two things are. So I would love if you could just elaborate a little bit on that notion of just why it's so important that we, know ourselves and be the best possible version of ourselves and live in an authentic way before we can do any of these other things and get the things that we want. Because I think it's such a cool point that you make on, on your website and in all the work that you do.
Yes. Amen to that, sister. And it's why I love doing what I do, because here's the thing. I'm not just showing a woman how to manifest the love of her life, but when she's in alignment with who she is and what she wants, everything changes. And I mean the amount of money in her bank account, the type of career she's living, the house she's living in, the trips she takes on, her communication with family, with friends. I mean, your entire life changes. It's the ripple effect. And so when you, which so many women are scared to do, but when you are able to stand in that power of this is who I am and this is what I want, and I allow myself to have this, I allow myself to go out and get it, that's when you can have it. But so many women are scared to be who they truly are. And I can tell you with my partner, it was the first time in my life that I was 100% me. It was like, hey, take it or leave it. It was almost like I was challenging him to find something he didn't like, because I was just so over pretending to be someone I wasn't and then getting dumped anyways, or my heart broken anyways. And I had gone through such a journey over the course of that past year of falling in love with myself and taking the time for me and doing what I wanted and getting really clear in the life I wanted to have, and stepping into that authentic expression of me has now manifested my partner. It's now helped me to create this dream business that fulfills me on so many levels that the food business didn't. It's completely changed my relationship with money, like going from being tens of thousands of dollars in the red to holy crap, an abundance of money each month, and choosing where my money goes, like which foundation, and money going into my retirement account. It's like everything has changed, but it wasn't overnight. It was this process of me really getting clear in the who I am and how I'm going to serve, and having the courage to step by step every single day to move in the direction of my dreams, regardless of what my current reality might look like. And one of the things I like to share with my clients is a quote that I read in a book by Gary Bishop, Unfuck Yourself. And he says something along the lines of, why is it that we put so much passion towards our past versus passion for our futures? And so what I have always done is this, like, no, my eye is on the prize. I'm looking at the passion of the future of what I want to create. That's my reality so much more than the, oh crap, this isn't going to work out, or what if he leaves me? What if I get hurt again? But that's where people are putting their power. They're putting their passion in the past instead of where they want to go.
Oh, I have so many things to say. Oh,
Say 'em all.
I'm freaking out. Okay, so I love that you quoted the book Unfuck Yourself, because it's such a good book. I mean, for people out there who are sort of giggling or whatever, it's a phenomenal book. And I think that's the book that one of the principles, I believe it's that book, one of the principles is your brain is wired to win.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So here's where things get interesting. And I'm going to ask you about this notion of manifestation in just a second. But what he talks about in that section is actually this amazing overlap between the worlds of like neuropsychology and cognitive psychology, and this sort of, in the way that you described it, woo-woo world of the law of attraction and manifestation. Ultimately, I don't care what somebody believes. If it gets you off your butt and you start living the life that you're supposed to live and you chase your goals, oh my God, I don't care which side of the coin you fall on with these things. I just want to see you live a big, exciting life. But what's super cool about this is that in both cases, both the law of attraction and on this cognitive psychology side, it's so interesting, this notion of your brain is wired to win. And what he means is the stuff that your brain believes, the things that are already sort of encoded in your mind, that's the stuff you're going to see more of. Like, you're going to find it. Like, if you want to see negative things and that's what you're predisposed to do, you're going to find them. And if you want to see positive things, you're going to find it. And if you're looking for business opportunity and you are laser focused on that, you're going to find it. So it's really, really cool that you brought up that book.
Well, there's actually, going into science, your reticular activating system in your brain. That's the part of your brain that actually filters in the information that you are used to seeing, that you're accustomed to seeing. So if you're looking for really great guys, your RAS, your reticular activating system, actually shows that to you. And so part of the fun and magic of what you were just saying and what Gary brings up in the book is, there is this merge between science and spirituality and quantum physics and neurology and brain chemistry. Like, there's a part of your brain that actually looks for whatever it is you expect to see.
I know. It's so awesome. And then what I like could nerd out on that, because honestly, I'll let people in on like a little secret. That's basically psychology, like the whole thing. Clinical psychology, counseling psychology, the experimental fields, all of them. It's basically your brain finds what it expects to find. And so if you want it to find something else, you have to train it to expect to find that other thing. Something else that I thought was awesome that you were talking about, like trying to be somebody that you're not and then hoping that the relationship is going to work out. Every time, oh my God, every time and I'm so going to date myself, but every time I hear somebody say that, whether it's, maybe a friend or just someone in passing or whatever, like, oh, what is it that I have to do to make women like me? What is it that I have to do to make men like me? Blah, blah, blah. I always go back to that MTV show, The Real World. Or you see it on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette too, which is more a modern day sort of quote unquote reality. But basically, like, these people show up and they all live in a house, right? And there's cameras everywhere and you can see the cameras, like they're there, right? But the first few days, everybody's on their best behavior and everybody looks like a decent human being. And then at some point you acclimate and you become yourself. Like, you're just going to do it. You're just going to go back to baseline. Like, that's your homeostasis. You're going to be yourself. So at some point, people go back to being themselves. Usually there's a lot of alcohol involved. But that's when things start to break down. So, like, if you're faking it and trying to be somebody you're not, at some point, you're going to forget that the cameras are there and you're going to turn into your normal self. And if that person doesn't get along with your partner, it's not going to work. So I love that you go there. Now I'm just babbling.
No, but that's good. I think that's a good key takeaway that people should hear. It's like, if you're not, and I'll say this to my clients all the time, like, look, the sooner you fall in love with you and you say, this is who I am, you are showing the other people, your potential suitors, who you really are. So you're giving them the opportunity to fall in love with the real you. But until you do that, your relationship will never be authentic. It won't be that soulmate level love you crave because you're not showing all of you, the good, the bad, the challenging past, like your fears, your insecurities. Like, the sooner you show it, like, cameras are on, like, I love that you brought up the real world example, but it's like, who are you really? And if the man can be in love with that person from day one, you have a much greater chance of success than trying to put on a show.
Totally agree. So I would love if we could dive into that a little bit. So you've talked about this notion of manifestation. You've talked about this notion of being, your authentic self. And I'm assuming you've worked with a number of people who you've helped in this way. How do you see all of that working out for people? And I don't know if you can share any anecdotes or stories, or maybe there's a way to sort of mask it so that you're not, airing somebody else's private business. But I would love for people to just understand how this works and what it looks like.
Yeah, no, I will absolutely give some examples, and first name basis is totally fine by me because you're not going to know who it is. So here's how it plays out. So ultimately, I'm going to give the example of a client I'm working with right now, Mary, and we've been working together about 6 weeks. And so 6 weeks ago, the before, and she's successful, she's very smart, she's very beautiful, but she's in her 40s and hasn't been married, hasn't had kids. And so Mary's operating from very left brain, very logical. I mean, she owns her own business, so she's used to doing it herself. Like you're used to, I mean, think of business owners just making your to-do list and knocking shit out. And so it's not that Mary was a very, very spiritual woman, but she'd come to this point of what I'm doing isn't working. So what am I doing wrong? And so in the very beginning, when I was digging into, what do you want? Like, who would be your perfect partner? It was hard for her because she really felt like she was setting the bar too high and that type of person didn't really exist. And then there was this insecurities around, well, is this really what I want? Or is this, because of society? Is this because of what my mom told me? And so she had a lot of confusion and lack of clarity around it. Now, fast forward a couple of weeks after working together and teaching her to be really more in alignment with her heart space, with the brain in your heart, and to do the exercises to unravel the what do you want and to help you just believe that you deserve to have it. And then, yes, like giving her the actual practical tools of manifestation, which really isn't a complicated process. We can get into that later. But fast forward 6 weeks, she looks different. She is happier. She looks more beautiful. She's telling me like, people are coming up to her and saying, you look really good. What's changed? You just seem happier. And it's because there's this lightness, there's this faith, there's this knowing that you're going to get what you want. Whereas only 6 weeks ago, it's the fear, it's the insecurities, it's the doubt, it's I always pick the wrong men, it's not working out for me, what's wrong with me? And so when you transform into a new woman, like it's that quote, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? So that's the power that when I'm teaching women these skills, they're stepping into the, I'm not going to fail. This is going to work out. It's just a matter of when, not if. And so she's sending me emails of like, holy crap, Emerald, I can't believe it. Like, I don't have this fear anymore of attracting in the wrong guy. Like I just have this knowing, this certainty. She's like, I don't really have any of those bad days anymore. I teach tapping, emotional freedom techniques. She's like, I don't really have to tap anymore. And so progress and change can happen so quickly. But truly what I feel is the biggest takeaway is that certainty, that knowing when you don't have doubt, right? It's like, what would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail? And when you're giving that belief system to a woman, she's unstoppable. Like the doubts don't plague her any longer. And when you're in that frame of mind and you're in that frame of mind long enough, that's when you manifest what you want. So that is part of that process of manifestation, of holding yourself in that expected state of belief long enough so that it can manifest. Whereas on the other end of the equation, if you hold yourself in an expended state of disbelief, nothing ever happens because you don't believe it's going to happen. You don't take action towards it happening. So there is this marriage between the spiritual and the practical in regards to manifesting or creating whatever it is you'd like to in your life.
That's so cool. Okay, we have messed around officially long enough. You got to clue us in on how this process works because now I'm beyond curious to know sort of the next level down of detail of how you actually go about doing this and how you get people through this process because that's an amazing transformation. And I think, as you describe what this client looks and feels like, it's something that we aspire to. We aspire to having days that feel lighter. We aspire to having just this belief and certainty about the things that, we know we can go after and obtain. So I'd love for you to dive just a little bit into the process for how you work with people.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be glad to. And, disclaimer, I'm going to give you 5-10 minutes of it, but imagine like anything when you're working with someone on a weekly basis. So I'll give you the entire process, but trust that it is that easy because some people are going to say, Emerald, it can't really be that easy. I'm like, well, it is. It really is that easy. But think about when you have that accountability partner, like if you hire a personal trainer and you're going to the gym every week, like the exercises aren't hard. It's just, you got to do them. Right. And so here's the entire premise of manifestation, of creation, of law of attraction. The entire premise is like attracts like. So whatever vibration you're putting out into the universe, you're going to get back. And everything is vibrating at a different level, right? Like things that are more physical and more solid are vibrating slower. And so if our bodies are vibrating, what's the energy that you're putting out? And so the entire premise that I work with my clients in is getting them on a high flying disc, getting them at a high vibrational state, getting them to this point where they are feeling really good in their lives. And for every person that's going to be different, but we'll do the practical side where it's like, okay, make lists of things that help you feel good and then go do them. So this is the part of the story where people are like, really, Emerald, it's that easy, just feel good. And I'm like, yeah, it really is that easy to feel like all you have to do is feel good and life will attract more of that your way. But
so simple. There you go.
Yeah,
we're done.
so
Like,
simple.
no big deal. Like, pack it up. Let's go home.
But then people get caught up in reality because they have a crappy day or someone said something bad to them and it puts them in a tailspin and they're back where they started. Or they've been doing it long enough and it's not working, so it must not work. And so the premise truly is like attracts like. And so my role as their coach is getting this woman in a good state. And of course, reflecting back to her when she's getting caught up about her ex or he must be the one or they had a bad date, like ups and downs, that's life. But the entire premise is how can you make yourself feel good as much as you can? And if focusing on a subject makes you feel crappy, well, stop. I mean, I've had clients where we've stopped dating because she was in this pattern and attracting in the same types of men. And she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, well, then stop. If dating isn't feeling good, then stop freaking dating. Like, go do something else that feels good. Go take tennis lessons. So she is. So long story short, it's just getting women into this state of feeling good. And yeah, connecting with your intuition and really understanding that you are a spiritual being having a human experience and there's something bigger than you, and not taking things so personally and not getting so caught up in the drama. And oh my goodness, we're going to be meditating and visualizing and doing journal exercises. And so really helping women to be much more in alignment with their hearts and not just their head. And then, yeah, just getting them feeling good and the hope that he's on his way. And then the hope turns into belief, and then the belief turns into expectation. And when you reach that state of expectation, like that's when the magic happens quickly. So that right there, actually, I don't know if I could say it any more concrete, but we go from doubt to hope to belief to expectation. And when you can reach that expectation state, it's guaranteed. It's just a matter of when. It's like, it's on its way. He's on his way. This is really exciting.
That's an awesome overview. I haven't heard anybody describe it as succinctly and as clearly as that. So that is amazing. So something being simple is not the same as something being easy, right? So
Correct.
if you can understand it and it's a simple concept to understand, right? Like you should feel good and then people will want to be around you and blah, blah, blah. That's simple to say, not easy to do necessarily. What have you found when you've worked with clients? What's keeping us from that? Because man, if there's one soapbox that I'll get on every single day and thump, and people who have listened to me have heard me say this a million times, but like ultimately us being here and us having the life that we have that is so finite and so short. Ask anybody who's at the end of their life, they'll tell you it's not enough time. You know, it's so short and it is such a gift that if we could get ourselves to that point where we're truly enjoying ourselves, where we're being ourselves, where we feel lighter, I mean, that is a life gift, more even above, as you mentioned, above just attracting a mate. And I don't want to say just, because connection is so important, but it's so much bigger than that. What do you find is standing in people's way? It's so it is just, it's the thing it's the gift that I wish I could give everyone, you know, like what do you find that's keeping people from doing this?
Oh, there's so much that are keeping people from doing it. They have their should list, right? Like, I should do this. I should be that. I shouldn't do that. So they've got their shoulds. People have their fears and insecurities. I mean, the stuff that was passed down from your parents, that was passed down from their parents. I mean, we are such this mess of belief systems that we've taken in from the world around us that isn't true. But a lot of people don't take the time to break it down. And this is where I can draw into my past and feel very grateful that I was raised by a hypnotherapist. And so not from day one, but let's say by the time I was in my teenage years, I started to understand this, where I no longer took belief systems as truth. I no longer took thoughts as truth. Like, I didn't put them there. Where'd that come from? And so I really started questioning everything. I'm like, is this the truth? Is this my truth? Is this a truth? And so the more I got into this process of truly questioning everything, including the thoughts in my head, it allowed me to become more free to create what I wanted. And so there are a bazillion and one reasons why people get so caught up in their fear. But that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because the only thing that holds people back is their belief system that they can't have it. I can give you 1,000 examples of people that have changed their lives, but it's because they wanted to, and it's because they believed they could. And so what's holding people back? Truly their belief systems. They don't think they can do it, or they're scared of failing. They're scared of getting hurt. I mean, there's just a million reasons.
It's something that there's commonalities among so many of the women that I've interviewed for this podcast. And this notion that we can have, be, do, whatever it is, anything we want, is something that has come up time and time again from people with the most varied backgrounds. So people who had tons of opportunity given to them, they just needed to grab it and run. From people who had no opportunity, like less than none, and they made their own. I mean, they just created their own luck and created their own opportunity. And it's just such a commonality that when people finally believe that they actually are worth having something or worth doing something, and that they can. And you don't even, I like that you laid out, and I don't remember the four words that you said, but going from doubt to basically expectation. So I got 50%.
Hope and belief.
Perfect. Going through that process, like, you don't have to necessarily be at that expectation step right away. You just have to be at the place where you can start to take the first few steps, and maybe you're operating in doubt at that point. But I find that the more we act and the more that our body starts to do the things that resemble the expectation that we're going to eventually have, that just feeds right back in, and we relearn, well, unlearn in a lot of cases, and then relearn new ones, beliefs about what we are capable of. People do not realize how much power they have and how incredibly capable they are.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. And that's what holds people back. It's their mindset. They really don't think they're capable because, well, my mom never did, and her mom never did, and her mom never did. And there's this wonderful story where it's pretty much like this woman was over at a friend's house for Thanksgiving, and she cut off both ends of the ham and put it in the pan and put it in the oven. And her friend was like, "Why did you do that?" Have you heard this story before, April?
I have, yes, but please tell it, because I don't think anybody has told it on this podcast, and it's so good.
Okay, good. All right. So she's at her friend's, she's baking the ham. She's like, "Why do you do that?" She's like, "Well, that's how my mom always did it." So then when she's at her mom's house, she asks her mom, and she's like, "Mom, why did you cut both ends of the ham off before you baked it?" Mom's like, "Well, that's how my mom did it." And so then, of course, the story begs, then she goes to her grandmother and says, "Hey, Grandma, why did you cut both ends of the ham off before you put it in the oven?" And Grandma says, "Well, my pan was too small." And so that's where people get caught up, is like, well, that's how my mom did it. It's how her mom did it. That's what society does. But we are powerful beyond belief, and we can choose to be differently and think differently and have differently. But we've just taken on a version of truth for so long that people don't know they can have it any differently. And part of my work is to wake people up. It's like, no, you actually can have everything your heart desires, but you have to believe it first.
Totally. Okay, so let's say you've got somebody convinced. They're like, "Yep, okay, I'm willing to take the first few steps." How does somebody get started? Like, what practical advice do you have for them to just start moving down this path? Because I'm a big proponent as I mentioned a couple of moments ago, I'm a big proponent of taking the first couple of steps and realizing that momentum kicks in and your vantage point starts to look different the further down that path you go. Even if it's just a few steps down the path, your vantage point looks different. So
Sure.
How do people get started? What's the first practical things they can do?
Yeah, well, one of the first exercises I do with all of my clients is have them do a little exercise called "If I Could Have It All." And so they pull out a sheet of paper, and you just start journaling. Like, if I could have it all, what would it look like? And so it's a good way to tap into all of your subconscious desires that we don't usually allow ourselves. It's like, if I could have it all, I'd have my own private island. And if I said that out loud, people might be like, you're crazy. Tony Robbins has his own island. And so this "if I could have it all" exercise starts to utilize the creativity of the subconscious mind, the power of the subconscious mind. It starts getting you focused more on what you want versus what you have, or the lack of what you have. And so I'm a big fan of utilizing the juices, the power in the subconscious mind. And so step one would be, well, just start dreaming on what would your perfect life look like, and not just the man, but everything. Like, how would you feel when you wake up, and what would you see outside of your window, and what would you do at 10 a.m. in the morning, and what type of friends do you hang out with? What are you doing for money? How much money do you make? And so to really allow yourself to dream, I think is really important to then take the next step, because you start to see like, hey, yeah, I actually do want these things. And so what am I doing to create that type of life? So that would be one of, like, I don't know, 800 first steps I could give someone. Many.
What I like about that too is your point about, you don't have to necessarily tell someone else this. You don't need anyone else's permission or validation or anything like that to say that what you're writing down and what you're dreaming up is okay. In fact, maybe in the beginning that makes it really scary to do. And so you just don't even want to go there. What I love encouraging people to think about is, you don't have to tell me or you or your partner or anybody external. Like, we're nobody, right? Like, we're not living your life. You are the leading character in your life, right? Mm-hmm. But at least don't lie to yourself. Like, tell yourself the 100% truth. Like, if you were going to go drink half a bottle of wine, and at that point, you were going to start talking about what you really want, where your inhibitions have lowered a bit and you're really getting excited about what you wish your life would look like. Like, that's the stuff that, you want people to write down. Like, don't lie to yourself. Be totally truthful about what would this look like in an ideal situation. I think that's such a cool exercise.
Yeah, it's so important. And I was working with another client, and she was scared to admit to herself that she wanted to be married. And I was like, girl, if you really want that, like, please be honest with yourself, say it. And then one day, yes, you are going to have to be able to express that to a man, because in your heart of hearts, if you really do want to be married and have that type of commitment to someone, well, you want to be attracting in the type of men that want that as well. But if you're not honest with yourself first, that really is important to you, you're probably going to compromise. You're probably going to end up in a relationship that's not totally fulfilling, because at the end of the day, you wanted something different, but it started from you not being authentic with yourself, even, of what you wanted.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Okay. So if people are interested in going even further than that, first initial step, they've done some of the journaling that you suggested, whatever, and maybe they want to reach out to you, how do people find you? How do they work with you? What are their options if they want to take this a little bit further?
Sure. So right now, I've pretty much got two options to work with me. I have an online course that has live group calls, and then I have my intensive one-on-one coaching. And so both of those options can be found on my website. To work with me one-on-one, it is an application process. I only work with a handful of women at a time, because as you can imagine, like, I'm giving them my all. Like, we are going from 0 to 100 in a very short amount of time. So that is a certain type of woman that's actually ready and prepared for that intensive one-on-one program. But the 8-week program, it's an online course, and it's got so much great information in there, and it's it's group in that there's live Q&A calls and they have their Facebook group. And so it's a really fun community to be moving through your stuff and to go deeper into everything I'm teaching you today. And then, of course, Facebook and Instagram. I've got all my social media profiles. They're on the website too. And ultimately, I just direct people to my website because then they can read the blogs and watch the videos. Maybe they download my ebook, Manifest Your Soulmate in 21 Days. Like your website is your calling card, really.
Awesome. So I'll put a link to it on your show notes page for people who are interested. But if you head to emeraldsinclaire.com, it's EMYRALD Sinclaire, SINCLARE.com. You can get all of the information that she just spoke about. Check out her online courses, check out her ebook, all of that fun stuff, and really just learn a little bit more about this area. Like I said, what I think is super cool about the way that you approach this work is it starts from a place of being authentic to yourself and making yourself happy. So minimally, if that's what you're focused on, that's a great place to start.
Yeah, you've already won.
Absolutely.
Because here's the thing. Why do we want anything in our life? Because of how we think we'll feel when we get it. So if you can fast forward to the I already feel good, then let's be honest. Like, it doesn't matter what your life looks like. If you wake up and you're so freaking pumped to be you and you're jumping out of bed and you're filled with joy, like, we think we want the guy so that we'll feel loved and feel worthy and feel adored. But ultimately, no. Start feeling that way now for real, and you'll actually become a magnet for the guy and more amazing experiences in your life.
That was the best place to sum this up. That was awesome. That was such a good punctuation mark, whichever one you want it to be, but great punctuation mark at the end of this episode. Before I let you go, though, I do have to ask you one last question. We are compiling a Spotify Power playlist of motivational songs that all of the amazing, inspiring, incredible women that I have interviewed have all contributed songs to this playlist. It's crazy diverse. There is stinking everything, I swear, under the sun on this playlist. But I have to ask you for your contribution to our playlist.
Oh, yeah. I Love Me by Meghan Trainor.
I like that song so much.
It makes me feel so good. One of my high vibe activities is dancing to music. And so that song right there, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's putting such good words into my brain.
I love it. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. Emyrald, thank you so much. Seriously, this was wonderful to have you on. It was so great for you to share your background and your story of, how you came to be so passionate about the work you do. And thank you for just sharing the process that you go through with your clients and some of the details that are under the cover, because there's a lot here that I think can really help people, like we've said a few times now, not only make that connection with somebody who will be really special to them, but also live a much more fulfilling and bigger, inspiring life. And that is what I am all about. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. It was such a pleasure.
All right, you guys, I really hope you enjoyed that interview with Emyrald Sinclaire. She is just a breath of fresh air, and I love that she gives women not only permission to go be their 100% authentic selves, but it's more than permission. It's basically an urging or almost the requirement that we need to go out there and be exactly as we are, be exactly who we're meant to be. And that is when we're going to attract the right type of people into our lives, specifically in her area in romantic relationships. Now, because that is Emyrald's area of expertise, that's actually where I want to start with the few things that I want to call out. She talked about how so many times we're afraid to be who we really are. And we're afraid that, are we going to do the right thing? Is this the right time to call him back? Is this the right topic to talk about? Should I let him know about this shortcoming of mine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? If you've ever been at the beginning of a relationship and had those thoughts, you know exactly what I'm talking about and how difficult that can be and how much friction it can add to a relationship. What's interesting is when I met the man who ultimately would become my husband, that was the absolute first time ever that I was 100% myself and I didn't worry about any of those things. I was a little bit older, and so maybe I had just become more confident or comfortable with myself one way or the other. I decided, you know what? If I want to text him, I'm going to text him. And if I want to tell him something, I'm going to tell him something. And if if he did something that was kind of, frustrating or hurt my feelings, I'm going to let him know those things. And both of us said the same thing. Like when we met each other, we were 100% ourselves and we didn't worry about playing games, about doing the right thing. And let me tell you, the relationship that this has grown into is better than I could have ever hoped for myself. And I truly, truly mean that. So I was excited to have Emyrald on the podcast because I know what that authenticity has done for my romantic relationships. And I really want the same thing for all of you. Now, there's a couple of other pieces that I want to call out because, yes, they're applicable to the conversation that Emyrald and I had around relationships, but they also are applicable to just life in general. We mentioned the book Unfuck Yourself, and specifically, one of the notions in the book that your brain is wired to win. I've talked about this so many times about how your brain has this incredible ability to goal seek. And it has this amazing ability that once you have an expectation in your mind, it has this amazing ability to color your reality and help you find more of that information or more, help support that expectation that you have. Now, Emyrald and I come from slightly different backgrounds and different reasons why we think that this type of process works. She mentioned her upbringing with a hypnotherapist. She mentioned, I love that she's a self-proclaimed woo-woo type of person. And I would call myself a very self-proclaimed, data analytical type person. Although Emyrald does, get into that area as well. Ultimately, I said it during her interview and I'll say it again. I don't care why you think the mechanism through which you think this type of thing works. All I care about is that you are finding ways to harness the power of your mind to help it do its job and goal seek for you, to find you more of the things that you want in your life and help color your reality and help shape your decisions and shift your focus so that you can go after those things that you want and start to make small incremental tweaks in your life to bring it more in alignment with what is going to make you happy. So ultimately, I don't care why you think this works. I don't care if you think that it is truly a vibration that you're sending out to the universe. I don't care if you think it's your connection to God. I don't care if you think it is purely a neurological mechanism. Don't care. The fact of the matter is you can harness the power of your mind regardless of how you think that it works, and you can use it to get you the things that you want. Now, I also want to call out this notion that we talked about how some things that are simple to understand, it's not the same as it being easy to put into practice. And one of those things that we talked about was this notion of our beliefs. So we talked about it a bit. Beliefs are not facts. Even though most of us can come up with evidence to support our belief system, that doesn't mean that your belief, especially your self-limiting ones, are facts. They are not. They are something that your brain expects to be true or believes to be true, but it is not necessarily a fact. For those of you out there who have self-limiting beliefs or who have beliefs that keep you in a small, comfortable box and don't allow you to expand out to do the things that you want to do, I really, really encourage you to head over to aprilseifert.com, hit the blog, and go to my post on self-limiting beliefs and using something called the confirmation bias to help you rid yourself of them. I'll also link to this on Emyrald's show notes page so that you can, click in and get, directly there. But that blog post includes a free download that'll walk you through an exercise where you're going to use a very, very common cognitive psychological bias that every single one of us has, but you're going to hack it. You're going to use it in your favor to help rid yourself of self-limiting beliefs. The more you can do this, the more you can tear those down, the more that you will realize you are absolutely limitless. You can go after anything you want. I think it's Rachel Hollis who says, other people don't get to tell you what you get to have. You get to tell you that. So the more you can get rid of those self-limiting beliefs, the better off you're going to be and the more able you're going to be to go after the things you want. You have so much more control than you think you do.
Before we close out today, I want to say thank you to my producer, Cameron Hill, and to my incredible sponsor, Modern Well. If you want to learn more about how you can reach your goals in a one-of-a-kind work-life community, visit www.modernwell.co. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone else who might benefit from this inspiring message. And if you have a moment, click the link in the episode description to leave me a rating and a review on iTunes. It would mean so much to me. Finally, I want to remind you that it is absolutely possible to live a happy, fulfilling life, even in spite of all of the chaos and demands we all experience. Sign up at aprilseifert.com to gain access to tools that will help you do just that. I have carefully created and curated a set of tools that combine the powerful fields of psychology and design thinking to help you intentionally create a fulfilling, happy life you love. Thank you so much for joining me this week, and until next week, stay inspired.